All right, fantastic. So for today, we'll be talking about spacing and colors. So I'll share my screen now. So let me know when you can see the screen.
I can see your screen.
All right. Um, so before we go into spacing, there was something I let me show you guys something. So in a case where you have two items, right? I'll just draw a frame. To zoom in, remember, control then slide on your mouse wheel to zoom in. Zoom out, control, then roll on your mouse wheel also. So this is our canvas, this is our desktop canvas. Now I have different items scattered everywhere, right? Now say I want to move the location of these two. Let me just change this color so that you can see what I'm talking about. Um, so say I want to move this to the left, then move this to the right. Now one way to do it is bring it here, then take this one and bring it here, and that's fine. I've moved it not accurately, but they have changed positions. But another way to do it, the faster way to do it, is selecting both of them. Click on the first one, hold down your shift key, click on the second one, right? Now when you do this, something will come out. You see this circle, this pink circle. Yeah, you see this pink circle. You see it here also. Now just click on it and drag it to swap it with the one you want to swap with. Select, click and drag it to swap it. That might not work for all cases. I mean, there might be in some cases that the Figma interface would not detect if it's not possible to swap it, right? So it will not come out. But in most cases, these two things come out. Now you see this third one here. Now this is the space between them. So you can drag it up to reduce, drag it down to increase. Just I'm saying this just so you could design faster, basically. Yeah, just so you could design faster. But yeah, if I want to swap these two locations, I could just I've seen the red dots. I could click on it and then drag it, and it just swaps the location for me. I mean, takes it up on that. Running back to our alignment, if I want to align all these guys to the top, I could just highlight everything and then align to top, right? Now they are not distributed accordingly. I mean, I'm getting some overlaps here. I can highlight everything, come inside here, distribute horizontal spacing. Now when I do this, it will distribute it equally for me. So everything is now 19 pixels between them. So if I want this guy now to be at the first place, I've seen this dot, I can click on it and move to the first place. So you see that we've used both alignment, we've used equal spacing, and we've used that moving to quickly move all this. If all those tools were not available, in a case like this, we have to manually bring each of them, and when time comes to move this front, we have to bring it, move these guys. Now, I see the time it's taking for me to actually do all these things, and the time it took for us to just quickly utilize our alignment tools and a couple of shortcuts on Figma to achieve the same thing that I want to achieve. So yeah, so that's what I want to show you guys. So for today, we're talking about spacing and colors. Now, space generally is the distance between two elements, two things. That's the space matrix, right? So it enables an element flow freely. It gives it room to breathe. For example, in this image at the top here, you might think this space is a waste of space. Well, in Lagos, it's a total waste of space, but they don't know good things. So this is not waste of space in this case because it's giving everybody, you don't need to, there's no clustering. You are free to move. 1,000 people can move here and they won't touch each other. And that is what was expected by this architect when he was building this cathedral, maybe, because it will house a lot of people, so he needed this space, right? So space helps to create breathing room between designs, right? It also helps to increase your um, user experience of your product because users can navigate your product easily, and then it creates consistency between your products, right? In your platform, this 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 spacing, right? All these spaces, it helps help users navigate the platform easily. And it creates a certain level of consistency across your platform because there's a mental model that they already have that these things are on the left, these are on the right, this one is attached to this because they are closer to each other. This one is not associated with this because they are further apart. So it's easy to understand your interface. So types of spacing. We have layout spacing, like what we did yesterday, right? Layout spacing is so all this can be an LMM one group, this is another group. So generally, just the term used to describe spacing practice done at the layout level. No layout now, we can have multiple layouts, like what I discussed yesterday, where we talked about the case where this can run at four, I mean at 5, right? And then I can decide to maybe when I'm done with this, I can do another one that run at maybe 3 just to get to one at the bottom. Same thing for rows. So we can have multiple layouts in one platform or in one platform design sprint. So that's layout spacing. The next one is component spacing. So this is the spacing in between one component. The term component here is not the same term as component on Figma, right? This term component is just used to describe different elements together, like a group. So component spacing in terms to describe the spacing practice done between elements. So there are two types of component spacing. So we have padding and we have margin. So padding is the distance around a content. The distance around a content, right? In this case, the distance between this checkbox and this text, there's a padding there, right? But the distance between this checkbox and this frame or this, I mean, and the margin of, sorry, the boundary of this frame is called a margin. That is the difference between padding and margin. This is my content, right? This checkbox is my content, right? The distance between the checkbox and the frame is margin, but the distance between the checkbox and another element is the padding, right? So that's just what padding and margin. People actually confuse it, but if you understand this image, this is the content, around it is padding, from it to the frame is what is in margin, right? The border is just, of course, there are two margins here. This is an element inside a larger frame. So this is the margin, and then the larger frame is the margin also. But from this one to this is the border. So for spacing now, why spacing basically? What is the relationship between spacing and what we already know as laws of UX, right? How does spacing affect design generally? So law of proximity says that objects that are near tend to be grouped together. So now let's take this screen for example, right? You know that this guy is different from this guy because it was spaced, right? And then there's hierarchy here, of course, but spacing also helps you know that this guy is different from this guy. Now you know that this and this, they are related because they are closely packed. Spacing also helps you know that, right? Apart from the hierarchy, because this is clearly bold and this is maybe regular. So apart from that, the spaces between let you know that okay, this one is associated with this, and this is associated with this. Now, the second, this is law of proximity, right? So things that are close together. Yeah, Victoria, I'm coming. So things that are close together are termed as one. That they're actually grouped to mentally. You would think that they are together because they are grouped together because they are closer to each other. That's one law that backs up why we need to use spacing in our design. Second one is law of common region. So this says that elements tend to be perceived into groups if they are sharing an area with a clearly defined boundary. I'll take you to this one again. Now, in this case, this is the boundary, right? Now you know that all these things, in one way or another, they have some connectedness, basically, because this is a whole boundary. They are close. They are in the same group, covered by one boundary. That's what law of common region is trying to say. Elements tend to be perceived into groups if they are sharing an area with a clearly defined boundary. Now, if I take out this boundary and move this guy to the right, you would not know that, and I use my platform, right? A user won't know that these two things are together because there's nothing that says that both of them are together. But having this boundary saying that, okay, all these ones, they are together. A third law of UX that helps us solidify why we need to use spacing adequately in our design is law of uniform connectedness. So this states that elements that are visually connected are perceived as more related than elements with no connection. They all talk about the same thing. It's called the Gestler's principle, right? They all talk about the same thing, saying that things close together are perceived as one. So what this is trying to say is that the idea of spacing in design is valid because it tallies with our laws of UX, right? Which the aim is to increase the experience a user derives after interacting with a platform. Yes, Victoria.
Okay, good evening, sir.
Hi, good evening.
When you were explaining the laws of proximity and common region, you were saying this one is close to this one, but we're not seeing it on the screen. Like we're not seeing what you were making comparison of.
Okay, can you see my mouse?
No, it's just yes, I can see your mouse now.
Yes, so I said this is related to this, because they have spacing between them, right? But you know that this is not related to this because the spacing between them is wider.
All right, so your
So
mouse has been on the same spot, like it's just close to the law of proximity, like the cursor. That's where it has been since. So I guess maybe your screen is static. I don't know.
currently my mouse has been on the same screen.
Yes, like we have just been seeing one screen. It has not switched between what you are making comparison.
You don't say. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
I'll just switch my network quickly. Yes, I think I saw your hand fit.
Yeah, I wanted to say I'm having the same issue with her. Like I was seeing your screen when you are trying to explain the law of proximity, law of common and the rest. But when you are going to your Figma to explain something, like the screen doesn't switch alongside with you, it just remains stagnant there.
Okay. So I think that should be my network. So yeah, I'll just switch that off now. Sorry. Yeah, I think you can see my mouse is moving now, isn't it?
Yes, it's
Yeah,
moving.
it's moved.
Alright, cool. So I'll run it by again. So law of proximity states that objects are near or proximate to each other tends to be grouped together. So how do we apply space to this law of proximity? Basically, objects that are close to each other, you would know that all these guys they are together because the spacing is consistent and then it's closely packed, right? But then when we are looking at this and then this, you know that it's not a complete, it's not one full statement. There is a space here trying to tell you that there's a break. So this guy is different from this guy. That's law of proximity, right? Law of common region states that elements tend to be perceived into groups if they are sharing an area with a clearly defined boundary. So I made a reference from this second screen. When there's a boundary here, right? So everything inside here has a way of being together. There's a level of connectedness between everything inside here. But if I take out this boundary and I push this price range to the right, maybe give it longer spacing between each other, right? You would not know that these two are connected. You might think, okay, this one is different, this one is different, because there's nothing like a boundary that says this is my territory. It's like your plot of land, right? If you don't fence your land, nothing says this is the end of my land. It just keeps on going. Somebody can assume that it's everything is my land, right? So that's what the common region is saying. The element tend to be perceived in two groups if they are sharing an area with a clearly defined boundary. The third one is law of needed uniform connectedness. So this states that elements that are visually connected are perceived as more related than elements with no connection. So element visually connected, this one, law of proximity has a way of talking about this picture. Law of common region has a way of talking about this picture. So okay, they might be the same thing, right? Unlike you trying to say that this image refers to law of common region because there's nothing in this image talking about common region. So elements that are visually connected are perceived as more related than elements with no connection. Now these three, they just help us in solidifying why we need to use spacing appropriately in our design. So they're also called the Gestalt principle, right? If you go to lawsofux.com, you get all these laws basically. I think I dropped it in one resource. So why spacing, right? Now we know how it relates with UX. We know the type of spacing, layout, component, and we know what margins and paddings are at this level. When we go into design, we'll see how we can use margin and padding, the terms margin and padding. But now we know all these things. But then why should I give up adequate spacing in my design? How does it help me? How does it help the product? Right? So the first one is it aids hierarchy. So yes, we can use text width to distinguish between level one and level two. Let me go on one quick sample. So say I pack all these guys to maybe zero. Say I also pack all these guys. So say zero also. Now this is looking clustered. So first off, if you look at this, you might get sharp headache quickly because there's no. It's like everything you're fighting for attention. You're fighting for attention basically. But then if you give it spacing, right? Let's say we just take it back to how it was before. Now it is easier to read because you know that okay, this one is number one. There's another space. This is this. Even though we have the text width to say hierarchy, but the spacing already has added a little bit of confirmation that this is different from this. So that's how it aids hierarchy, right? It creates visual hierarchy to elements when gaps are created to ensure that the user can find and digest information presented more easily. The second reason why we space it, it enhances usability, right? Now, this particular case is in if you're talking about the use of buttons, spacings in buttons and forms. So if there's no adequate spacing, everything will be clogged together. And considering the fact that our thumb can be very big, so if there's no adequate spacing, I might want to click on one button, but then I'll be clicking on another thing because there's no spacing between them, right? So it enhances usability. The third one, it increases experience. So we don't need to talk too much about that because, of course, if I'm clicking on one button and then it's tapping something else, that's already reduces experience and it might make me leave, right? So spacing in between already enhances or increases experience, user experience. Now the fourth one is it can be used for grouping. In this case, we use space to say that this mental model, we use spacing to say that okay, this and this are together. Same thing here, we use spacing to say this, and this, they are together. So these are some of the reasons why we do spacings, basically. Why do we space? These are some of the reasons why we space. These are examples of platforms that did spacing properly, with reference to what we spoke about in our last class and why we use margin in our designs. Now, as you can see, these guys they gave proper margin so that your content is just situated at the center, easily digestible, not too long because when the text is becoming too long, that means a user has to read from here down to this place, come back here, read again. That's why I give a larger margin so that your text can be just at the right amount of, at the right spacing, right width for users to digest it quickly. Of course, as we discussed, the layout you use for your designs are different with respect to the platform you're designing for, right? In this case, they don't have to do too much because there's no much interaction, just if and then no much information. So you don't need to expand it too much. Just give it adequate margin, put your content, use different types of buttons, use proper color, proper spacing to show grouping, and then you proceed from there. So as you can see, help your customer and this guy, you can tell that they are the same, right? Because they are closely packed. Love proximity came into play there. Now see all this space here. Some people might say this is a waste of space. Let's come and put one big rectangle here, right? But if you are scanning, this space already gives you a certain level of free flow, right? You don't need to, as you're coming here, you are just here, you are digesting what this is. You don't need to think about, okay, what is this other thing here? You're trying to come here and know what this is to tackle what this is. So spacing can also help give your design breathing room, allow users to feel in control, feel that they are free to roam, right? But then it can be overused, which will result in too much white space, right? Another one is Apple. So as you can see, they use the spacing from this text to the top. They used it properly, but then they use law of connectedness here to say that all these ones in this boundary they are together. Take it back to the law, which is law of common region, right? Elements tend to be perceived into groups if they are sharing an area with a clearly defined boundary. So Apple used this different shade of this red tone of color, right, to denote that everything inside there are one. Now, also you can see where we talk about layout spacing. Now, this is one block, this is another block, this is another block, but you can see that there's spacing here, spacing here, spacing here. So that's what we highlighted layout spacing done at layout level, not internal level. This time at layout level. So you can see layout spacing done in this place, right? So Apple, they did all this, but they did not still break the flow. As you can see, when you're done with this, you come down here. When you're done with this, you still come down here, left to right. You continue. There's no too much space. At the same time, there's no too little space. Just adequate enough to convey the information that this is what we are selling. You can quickly buy this, and then this is why you should do this. Now this is an example of a poorly spaced and then a properly spaced article. Now here you see that this and this, they are together, but if you look into this one, they are too clogged together, so it might be difficult to read what this one is. So the spacing between them is another problem, right? This and this, yes, we know they are together, but the space for this top, the space between this element and this large title or this page, right? It might seem that this one is closely related to this than it is to this. But the spacing between this and this is smaller, using our law of proximity, right? The spacing between this and this is smaller than this and this. I don't know if my this and this is too much, but are you guys following me?
Yes, I'm following you.
All right, cool. So it's trying to say that, so this one at the bottom might be related to this one because the spacing close to it is tighter, so might be more related. And then this one might be more related to this, right? Now imagine the time I'm taking to digest this information as a first-time user. Now coming over to this part, this is a clear title, this is under me. So clearly, this is okay. There's a larger space here telling me that whatever is here is not directly related to these guys at the bottom. So you can see that, okay, this, and this are together. Now the spacing you use for this section, since it's repeated down here, it is expected that the same spacing should be same down here. Because if this group are related as one, and this one is still the same thing as this one, right? But then I'm not seeing a different type of spacing. It might break the rhythm. So this group, the spacing you use for this one should be the same spacing you use for this one if they are the same, if they are conveying the same message. So the time it took me to digest this information is lower than the time it took to digest this. So this is actually, it hampered my experience, which is not what we want to achieve when we design. So that's what I was just trying to explain here, that the example one is too tight, so it increases my brain tax in terms of reading and then having to digest the hierarchy of this flow. But the second one is easier to scan because at the top we can see that at the top we can see that, okay, this is the large title, this is the text, and then these ones are together, and it keeps going. So I just keep on scrolling, digesting information, getting what I want, and I keep moving. So we know this stuff, right? Now this is how then do we create a spacing system? We've talked about how to space, we've talked about why to space, we've seen where spacing is done. But then do we just use any value? Do we just pick any value and use stuff like that? Creating a spacing system, right? So in creating a spacing system using our 8-point grid, I know we discussed about 8-point grid yesterday. So we talked about 8-point grid yesterday, and we said it's a model used by designers to get accurate spacings, accurate dimension for their designs, to create consistency, and also for a proper developer handoff, right? That's why we use 8-point grid. So why 8-point grid? So now everything from 8, 12, 16 is divided by 4. And 4 is 8 now is a bench. It's like a bedrock of whatever we place our things on top. Because even our canvas, we saw yesterday that our canvas, our 1440 by 1024, When we push it down, it divisible by 8, right? Our margin are left and right divisible by 8. So 8.b is just a system that was derived by someone back then, the OGs, on how to space your designs adequately, properly, so that you can increase the experience of your product. Now, how do we use 8-point grid in how do we use the 8-point grid for our spacing system? So we start by using the list, which is 8. I would go, let me come here, I'll just do it here. So we start by using, just draw a rectangle, right? 8 pixels by 8 pixels. Now this is our first spacing dimension, right? 8. Our next one, remember we said that there's 8 and there's 4, right? And usually we use 8 because usually we use 8, not 4, because 8 is divisible by 4. So we use 8. Now 4 is too small to start with in your UIs. So that's why we do not use 4 most of the times for typography and rectangles and shapes, but it's really too small, right? It's not visible enough, not legible enough. So we'll start from 8. But the next one can be 12, because 8 plus 4 gives 12, right? 12 by 12. I love this. So you can lock at this right hand side. If I want to change this to 14 by 14, I can lock this. If I put 14, it changes to 14 at both sides, right? A few seconds ago, I did not lock it. That's why you see that it gave me 8 by 12, because I just changed one part to 12. But if I locked it, right, and I said give me 12, it will give me 12 at both sides, which is 12 by 12, right? Now we have 12. The next one, we add 4 again, right, which is 16. You don't need to really be super good at maths to do this, because Figma already gives us the opportunity to do some calculation inside this place. So say it was 12 before, right? And I want to add 4. So I could just come here, 12 plus 4, and then it gives me what it is, 16 by 16, right? So our next one is to add 4 again. Now we said 8 divided by 4, that's why we're using 4. If I add 8 here, right, now imagine the jump. It jump from 16 to 24. It might be too much. It might be too much, right? So we're trying to create a spacing system that would work across our platforms, across our designs. So if we don't do this, and say for peradventure we give this to developer that these are the spacing system we use, when developer comes and they see that there is no 20, maybe he will not develop with 20, he will just develop what you have. Peradventure you had used 20 inside your design at some point, but did not put it here that it's a possible use case. That's on you, right? It's a poor handoff system. So I'll just subtract 4 from this. So 16 plus 4 gives me 20. Now we add 4 again, that's 24. I'm creating a spacing system right now. Right? Now we add 4 again. That's 28. Now we add 4 again. That's 32. Right? And when you get to this 32 part, now you're not designing for mobile again. You're now moving on to web. So you can now start adding 8 when moving. We are done with 4, we can now start adding 8. Right? So now I'm done with 32. If I decide to add 8 here now, I should be going with something like 40, right? If I decide to add 8, I should be going with 48. 8, I should be going with 56. But say I don't know it, I could just do put plus and then I add 8 and it gives me 56. Right? Keep on going. 64. Now I'm creating a proper scaling system. Now how do we use this scaling system, for example? So I'll just give one use case of how we use scaling system, then we'll move back to what we have for today. Then when we are designing the proper design time, then we will now see how this spacing system had a role to play, right? So for let's say we want to create a sign-up screen. My sign-up screen, of course, what it has is the title of the page, right? Which says sign up. The next thing it has is let's say it has the logo and then the title and then the email address, password, and then we have the button to say sign up, right? And then we have forgot password. After let's say we have forgot password, right? So now I have everything that a typical sign up screen should have: logo, title, email, password, button, forgot password. Now it's time to design the screen. So let's say we are doing for a mobile. I'll just pick my phone, right? So I'll just let me take it outside. Let me bring this in here. So let's use our logo. Let's just put a circle, a large circle at the top. Let's use our logo. But of course, there's something that has to be at the top here, which is status bar. I'll send a link. For Android, it's about 24, or for iPhone, it's different, about I think 48 for iPhone. But all these things you don't need to get, you don't need to cram them in your head. There are places that you have them preset. So all you need to do is just take it, use standard iOS, standard Android. You don't need to cram it. You don't need to design it from scratch. Take it, use, then you just worry about how to solve the design problem. So we have this now. Let's say this is our logo. Let's start from 80, right? 80. I don't want to go 48 because it might be too small, depending on the logo, because I want it to be large enough, right? So I start from 80, which is also within the 8-point grid, right? Now I have my title, which says login. I will use all these now. I will not go too far into why I'm using 24, why I'm doing this right now. When we get to that part, we'll talk about it. I want to just tell you guys how we use when we use spacing. Now the distance between this and this, right? What do I give? Do I give it 12? Or do I give it 4? Or do I give it 40? What exactly do I give? Right. So now I have my spacings, my spacings here with me. I have 8, 20, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28. Now this and this, they are related to each other. At the same time, this same login is related to the rectangles that we'll put down here. So at which one do I relate it to further from others? So more often than not, you relate the title to the content because the logo is just standing on its own. This login follows the rectangles that we'll put here later on, right? So it should be related closely to this one than this guy. But now what space do I use? So there is no particular spacing system. There's no particular spacing that you use between these. It's just you as a designer building a consistent flow across. So I can decide to go this. I can decide to use 32 here, right? It's me. Some people might decide to use 40, right? But 40 might look too large, might look too far apart. But we still want to say that this is connected to this somehow. Some people might decide to use 16, right? But 16 now is looking too close because if I bring this guy closer, now it's looking jam packed a bit, right? That's why I personally go with 32 pixels between the logo. If there's a logo, sometimes an illustration is here, if you've noticed. But if it's a logo, I go with this and then 32 pixels between them. Remember to move down, you use shift key and push it down, move by 10, right? So now it's 36. I want to move up. So I just move by 4 and then go to my 32. So now that's for login. Now the next one is email. So I have my rectangle for my email. Rectangle size is 48 pixels. We'll talk about that when we get into actual designs. Remember our layout. So this guy will stay somewhere here and you will spawn to somewhere here, right? I have this email. Spacing between these two, what should I use, right? Should I use 8? Should I use 4? Should I use 8? Or should I use 12, right? Now, the advised spacing to use between your label, this is called a label. This is called an input box. Turn on the grid. The advised spacing to use between your label and input box is usually 12 pixels, right? Because sometimes 8 might look too close to too clustered. So if imagine repeating this about 4 times, because I'm creating the create account screen where I need name, username, phone number, email address, and all that. So it might look too clustered. That's why the advice we should use 12 pixels. And so far I've been designing 12 pixels has given me more breathing room and it made my design look more consistent in terms of the input field um, and the label. So I'll use 12 pixels by 12 pixels. Now, what I'm doing right now, you don't need to do it all the time, right? Yeah, 12 by 12. Now, the reason it's not directly here is because this text already has its own padding inside. As you can see, there is small space here, space at the top, space at the bottom, space at the right. That's done by typographers, right? So we don't manipulate those. We don't. It's advisable not to touch those because people have taken time to go and design this typography we are using. So it's not advisable to touch it yet. Yes.
Please, good evening.
Yes, good evening.
Please, I'm trying to figure out how you bring out the pixels between the login and the circle. I can't bring it out. I don't understand how you did that.
I mean, you mean if I want to get it this distance, something like this?
Yes, how did you get that?
Okay, so if you click on this, right, I want to get distance between this rectangle and this email, right? I click on my rectangle, I hold my alternate key and hover around my email address. So it just tells me the distance. You get that?
Yes, I get it now. Thank you.
Right. So now I have this as 12, right? I could then group these two, which is let me just group 3 of them. Control G to group and name it email. So instead of doing all this again, let's say peradventure I'm using let's say I'm using email, password, button, forgot password. Instead of start drawing another rectangle again, I know that I can easily change this to password. I could just duplicate this one, right? Holding my alternate key and shift to constrain. I can duplicate it and I have a second one. I can then change this to password. So now I have this. What distance should I between these two? So I'll just bring this one. Then I have my 12 pixels. Let me start with 16. Now 16 might be too close, right? So let me start with 20. As I said, it's you just trying to find a flow, giving your design breathing room. There's no standard spacing to use for between this and this. There's no standard for it. It all depends on what you're using, your visual cues you're trying to pass across, and then sticking with consistency. Whatever you're using here, across board, make sure you're using it. Because people would already get used to a particular line of things than and how it's going, right? So if I let me say if I'm using 20 now, right? This is now this is what 20 looks like, right? So I just take out these guys so that you can see how it's looking. Now I have my email and my password. I could test with 24 pixels, right, and see how 24 looks like. Does it give you more room? Does it give it? Is it looking too wide apart now? It's all up to you. If you feel looking too wide apart, drop it down to 20. Right. Now I have that. What distance should I give this from this login? I will start with 16. Right. Is it looking too close to each other? Yes. Let's go 24 pixels. Okay. That's more like it because as I said, I want this to be associated with this than this. That's why this is 24, this is 32, right? Now I have my button. My button is a rectangle. So I could just come here and then draw my rectangle. Now, what distance should I give my button from these guys? See, they're close to each other, right? I gave this 20, this 24, this 32. Since they're close to each other, but then I still want them to come down to actually make the action, to actually perform the action, letting them know that it's not a regular input field, right? Right here, I want users to enter their email address. Right here, I want them to enter the password. But over here, I want them to click on it, right? Now, if I give you the same 20 pixels within them, you might think that they are all together. Maybe this one is just missing the label, but that's not the case. This last one is the action you take to go to the next stage. So you give it a larger spacing, like what we saw over here, right? This is the first one. This is the main title. This is the main block. This is the main thing. There's larger space before other things that are closely related. That's the same thing that will apply here. So I go 48 pixels myself for this purpose. As I said, right, there is no particular say this is this. It's not strict, right? But as you design, as you practice, as you try to see what's out there, what people are doing, then you can now coin your own way, right? See the one that works well for you, that works well for your design. Which one give a design more breathing room, which one give it more aesthetically pleasing feature, right? Then you now use spacing to your own advantage. And next thing you have here is forgot password. Forgot password is just a text. I want text at the bottom that says maybe forgot password on that end. Now what distance should I use from this to this? Remember, I don't want users to click on it, right? And then because of their thumb, if I bring it too close, say I bring it like this, maybe I use 8 pixels. And I want to click on forgot password, but then I'm clicking on the button because of my thumb. Because users use thumb in clicking. So I want to click on this forgot password, but then I'm clicking on the button, or maybe I'll do click on the button saying login, but then I'm not clicking on the forgot password. That's why I give it adequate spacing, right? So you can go with 24, right? You can go 24. Or what I do sometimes is I just create this kind of rectangle again, and then just put it in the middle of the rectangle. I give it 8 pixels, right? Or 4 pixels this time. Then delete the rectangle. Like this, I know that there's no way my users will click on this and it should click on the button, because I already have a second button of the same size, right? So now that I have that, I can then, it's 19, it's not what I want. 16 is too close. Should I use 20 or I use 24, right? So let's use 20 pixels. So this is fine. Forgot password. This is our button. Okay. Now you can see that the spacing system we use, because we have it already here, right? We're not guessing whether I want to use 22 or 23. We know that we are moving in multiples of 8. If you know all these values arithmetically, right, you don't need to come here and get the value by itself. You know that you're either using 8, 16, right? You're 20, 24, 32, 40. You already know this stuff. But then the same distance I use for this as 20, but eventually I have a third one. Maybe this is create account screen, right? My email, your first name, your full name, email address. I have a third one. Now if I come here and then I use maybe 32, the spacing between this one and this one, they're not the same, but then all these guys are the same. That's why I was saying that. But whatever you use here, right? Those guys that are closely packed together maintain the same energy, just like what we saw here. Same spacing between this, the same spacing for this next one, this, because they are both together, right? They are both together. So this one now should give me the same 20 pixels between them, and that's fine. And I can go this and be 48 pixels, right? And I have my typical login screen without putting colors or whatever. Typical login screen. So this is how you use spacing, the spacing system you created. This is how you use it in your design, right? So I'll just move a little bit faster, then coming back if you don't understand anything because of our time, right? So this is an example of application of the spacing system. It's not just between elements, right? It can be between the padding. Now in this button, between enter address and the top is padding, enter address at the bottom is padding. But this button itself and this one is called a margin. So that's why we use padding and margin. Enter address is the content. Between the content and this top, padding, content and bottom of what it is, size padding, the button and the frame itself, margin, right? This and this, margin also, right? So as you see in this one, this is standard material design standards. The status bar is 24 pixels. This is 56. This is 88. So as you can see, they are all divided by 8. They are all within the 8-point grids. In this case also, this is 12. This is 12. This is 16. This is 12. As you can see, in this one that they used, in this button that they used 16 to start it, in this next one, it is 16 again, right? Because they are together. This is 56. They wanted more space here. This is 32. They wanted this space. This is 16. This is 32. This is 16. Now this is 56 because it is a whole different block. This one is one section. This is another section. It gave you 56 here. Bottom here too should be 56. When you are done with this section, the next section, the spacing between both of them should be 56 also, right? So it's just consistency. As I said, spacing gives consistency. So as you're going, whatever I use, like in this one, I use 88, right? The next one should be 88. The next one should be 88 maximum, right? You cannot see 88 here. When we come here, we see 24 here. When we come here, we see 13 here. There's no consistency there. So basically, that's about spacing, right? So we've spoken about what spacing is, spoken about why we need spacing, why we use spacing. We talked about the linkage between spacing and law of UX. We talked about creating a spacing grid. We've seen how to use spacing in design when we designed the login screen a few minutes ago. We've seen practical examples of real life cases where they use spacing within the 8-point grids, right? So this is spacing. When you start getting your hands dirty with design, when you start experimenting with features or your with functionalities, basically, when you start replicating designs, because a way of learning how to drive car, or before you call yourself a master of driving car, you must have practiced driving car a lot, right? So to familiarize yourself with design, you have to practice designing a lot. And now you cannot, from scratch, you will not just wake up and say you want to design this because you don't know much. But then replicating pixel by pixel what others are doing will solidify your hand in using the tool, getting the accurate spacings because you have an idea of what spacing to use, getting an idea of what all these things do. I mean, if I replicate 5 login screens, if a project comes around and needs a login screen, I don't need to think too much. Already, I know that these are what I need for a login screen, right? So I have ideas of what I've already replicated from other people's own out there. Then I can now curate my own, right? So you might see it as you are stealing someone else's design, but it's not stealing, it's you practicing, right? So it's you practicing the design. Then it's when you're now solid in the usage of the design tool. You are now properly grounded in design itself. Then you can now start auditing other people's designs. That is when the real work starts. Because anybody can come up and use Figma and design a beautiful interface, right? But then, the same problem that the former designer had, you were not able to correct it. Maybe as you're going, you see that the color he used for this button, he used a white text on a white background, right? You now use the same white text on a white background. That means you've not learned anything. Because clearly you cannot use white text on a white background. It's not readable. So that is a change you then make. That is where you then learn. You might see that, okay, he did not prioritize. Maybe he kept this will pick up, clean, and deliver. In the design that you are replicating, this one was maybe the same color as this or the same font weight as this. But clearly this ought to give more importance, so more importance because it's a heading, it's a heading. And you now do the same thing they did. Instead of making this bold, making it visually different, giving it more hierarchy, you've not learned anything because you just replicated. But then auditing another designs, that's when you then start learning, right? So now that we're done with spacing, now we have an idea of the foundation of spacing, why we do spacing, how to create a spacing system, basically how to use a spacing system. So let's dive into the second section of today's class, which is colors. So before I dive into this, does anybody have any question on spacing that we can address while it's still fresh in your memory? No questions so far. All right, so let's talk about colors. So colors is what you see when light reflects on an object. That's the generic definition of colors. When light reflects on an object, the what is produced is color, right? But how does it affect design? We know that's color, so how does it affect design? It helps in influencing your text, right? It influences the meaning of your text, meaning of your objects. It influences your layout. It gives you a little bit of aesthetically pleasing feeling, right? And then it helps to convey your message to your end user. As you can see, the usage of green can denote money. If I use green in a rectangle, right? In a different, probably the my text, right, says um, invest 20 naira, get 50 naira free, and then I put a button and that says invest now, a green button that says invest now. Now that green already means money because as you can see in this, what I wrote up here, colors are an important aspect, if not the most important aspect of design, and can influence the meaning of text, how users move around a particular layout, and what they feel as they do so. So if I put a text that says invest 20 naira, get 15 naira free, and then green button that says invest now, you know that that is talking about money already because the text is already talking about money, and then the green color is talking about money, right? But if I change it to say save a life, plant a tree today, and a button that says donate now, you know this is talking about agriculture, or a button that says plant now, right? Or plant now. You know these are an agricultural based product, so this green also fits into agriculture. So color itself, it helps to influence the meaning of your text, your layout, the product itself, how users interact with it, how they feel. Because there's some colors that if I use probably a red color in in a in a banking product, already red means danger. It's associated with danger. Now it doesn't fit into um into a banking system. So why do I use red? Maybe I just liked it, but then it has influenced the meaning of whatever it is I have at the moment. It has influenced how users will operate on my platform because it doesn't suit the niche which is it doesn't suit fintech itself. That's why you don't see fintech platforms using red color as their main brand color. Yes, you have a question for me? Yes, I can hear you. You have a question for me? I can hear you, Marvis. Color theory. So color theory is basically the guidelines around color. Now, if you remember from back from secondary school, where they were teaching color theory, right? Primary color, secondary color, tertiary color, harmonious color, how all these things affect the way we interact with products. So this is where we pick all our colors from, the color wheel. So color theory is just a set of guidelines surrounding colors and how it is used, basically. So the primary color, as you see, is just red, blue, and yellow. Those are your primary colors. It's like the backbone of colors. So those are the three primary colors from where other colors are gotten from. Now, if you mix red and yellow, you arrive at orange, a secondary color. Secondary colors are when you mix two primary colors, you arrive at the secondary color. Mixing red and orange, sorry, red and yellow gives orange. Yellow and blue gives green. That's secondary color. Now, tertiary color is when you now mix a primary color and a secondary color. Now, mind you, if you mix red, and yellow, you will not get a tertiary color. You will still get orange, but this time a darker shade of orange because all you did was mix primary color one in two times, the yellow once. But if you mix red and yellow, then you have a tertiary color, right? So this is basic. This is something we all know. Just to create the foundation of where we are going to next. So yes, Marvin, you have a question for me?
Okay, sir. Good evening.
Yes, good evening.
Okay, please, I've been trying to get your attention. You asked if anyone had any question concerning spacing, and I said, due to the bad network I have here, I couldn't see the screen where um that displayed the importance of spacing. Like I didn't get all the importance. So I don't know if you could just take us back. I just see it and then you come back, please. Thank you.
Okay, this is why spacing. It aids hierarchy, enhances usability, increases the user experience of your product, and helps for grouping. Use spacing to denote whether this is more important than this. Just use it to help increasing usability in the sense that if a button, like what we did for this, right? If this is too close to it, it's it's spaced, yes, but it's not usable because I might click on this and meanwhile I'm clicking on this, and that's not what I want. So we use space to denote to increase usability, right? To enhance usability. Increasing experience is generic, of course. If your hierarchy is not proper, if it's not usable, it don't experience. And also it's used for grouping. So now in this case, we know that all these ones, this, and this, they are together because they have the same spacing and they're properly grouped, right? Does that take you now? Are you now with us?
Yes, thank you very much, sir.
All right. This slide we shared on the Slack channel also for so I can quickly go back and um, take a glance through. Now we have all these colors, right? But then, of course, these are not the colors that we see in everyday products. I mean, if these are all the colors by now, color should have finished, right? So there are ways of generating colors. Now we have hue, shades, tint, right? There's another one called tone, basically. But for hue is just your normal color. It's another name to describe color. That is your pure color, your red, your blue, all your primary and secondary colors. Now your shade, if you add black to your shade to your hues, you are getting your shades. Now there might be some cases where you see some color that are darker. Yes, it's blue, but it's a darker blue. That's what we call a darker blue, right? But the name is blue. It's just a different shade of blue, a darker blue. Tint is adding white, a lighter blue, right? It's the same blue, but it's just a tint of blue, a lighter blue. So we use shades and tint to generate color and generate a color palette so that we can use in our product. Talking about colors, how do we generate colors? What system do we generate colors? What type of colors can we generate from our color wheel? Now, this is one type of color scheme, the monochromatic. Now, what this does is it uses a single color and just gives you different shades and tints of the color. As you can see, this is one color. This is the hue, right? But now this is a shade because if I add black, I will get that color, right? If I add black to this color, I will get this one. If I add black at a different level, I will get this. If I add white, much white, I will get this. If I add many black, I will get this. So this is just one color, but then we have a palette that we can use for our design. One color for different shades and tints. Now from the color wheel, you can pick one color from it, right? And just then add shades or add tints. I'll show you how to do it basically. So this is a color wheel, right? I can pick red. And if I'm moving to the top, I'm making it lighter red, right? If I'm moving down, making it darker red. So this is just you picking one color and adding different shades. And we'll still dive into how to manipulate this part to get the colors. Now the next one is analogous color scheme. So it's just saying that you pick one particular color from your color wheel, then take two that are by the side of it, right? So as you can see in this case, we pick green, but then we take this one, we take this one. Um, Usually I have this color when I want to get, if peradventure I'm designing for a platform that I handle their branding also, I handle their colors also. They don't have a set of color that I need. I use, so I use this, and then because of due to their niche, if they are in agriculture, if they're in fintech, if they're in real estate, their brand color, we pick it, then we pick one by the left, one by the right to get three colors that we can choose from. Then we manipulate their tints and I use to get a particular color. This is one way to derive colors. So in this case, we pick the green, right? We go to the left of the green, we pick another, we pick something there. We come here, we pick. Now, if you are the type that don't use three colors, it's advisable to always use three colors maximum, three bright colors maximum, like three standard colors. Of course, you use more than three in your design, but then they will be used, sure, there will be tints and shades. They will not be different colors. Maybe a lighter blue, lighter blue, lighter blue, something of that sort, right? Um, so you pick one, go to the left, pick another, go to the right, pick another. Now you've gotten three colors, then you can now manipulate the hues and the tints. If those three are not, I mean, sorry, the shades are the tints. If those three are not enough for you, keep on going. Go to the left again, pick, pick. Now you have five. Manipulate the shades and the tints. And I come and pick purple, right? If I want to select another color, I can come here. The next to this one is red. To the left is blue. Now I have three. If I still want five, I come here, which is closer to yellow, more orange, and this is still blue, but this time a different type of blue, right? So now I have five colors to work with. Then I can now manipulate it and see what works with my audience. Now there are tools out there. Now this you might decide not to do this. There are tools out there that generate colors for you. There are free color palettes that generate colors from you. You can as well just go to a popular brand. Maybe you are designing, but you want to use blue. The client comes to you and tells you it's blue that he wants to use for a primary color, right? Now you want to derive a color palette to use for your design. You could just go on Facebook, pick their blue, and then log it in your color palette. It generates something for you. Then you pick the one that works, basically. This is complementary color, just telling the opposites. So you pick one from the opposite of one. In this case, they pick this color orange. Now they came and picked this blue, then tints and shades of those two colors. Because as you can see, this blue is a lighter version of this. This is a darker version of this. This is a lighter version of this. So there are just two colors here, but then these are hues and tints and shades. This one is triadic. Triadic is just instead of facing my face here, it's now a white shape like triangle. So you pick from up, go to the left, go to the right, then work on the tints and shades basically. So as you can see, there are three colors here. This, and this. But this one is a darker version of this. This one is a lighter version of this. There are three colors. Then work on your tints and your shades. So it's just good for you to have a general background of how all these colors are derived, why you pick this, why these ones work. Because these are proven formats on how to get a proper color scheme, right? So you might not really follow all these when you are into the real life scenario, but then you have a foundational knowledge of it, so you can always defend why you did that. But more often than not, I prefer monochromatic because it creates a sense of balance. We know that this is the color we are using. We just tweak it to make it lighter and to make it darker, as the case may be. Color meaning. Now, this is an extract from a post I came across. Now, in as much as all these might not be as accurate as possible, but the research showed that people associate red with this action, ambition, attention, confidence, love, passion, liveliness. That's why you see that in cinema it's red because they want to give you that emotional burst, right? Your love is red, your rose flower is red. They want to give you this, don't trigger your emotion, trigger the love in you, basically, right? Now, you can use this to your advantage. At the same time, this red means danger. You will see some don't cross. It's red, they used to write it. You see, if you cross, you fall. It's red, they used to write it. So you can also use this to your advantage when designing. So if I'm designing an action, then a user want to take an irreversible action, right? I use red to tell them that if you go this path, it's not coming back for you. And then if you still say fine, no, well, I told you. In the same vein, you might want to use red to denote love. Use red for your Valentine posters. Or more often than not, in the digital design space, red is used um, for danger. More often than not, right? Red is for danger. Well, I mean, it can mean other things depending on what you are building also. Orange is used for activity, used for optimism, used for harvest, creativity, excitement. You can use that to your advantage also. Green, nature, balance, luck. Use that to advantage. So all this, I think I attach the results to color meaning. So before you decide on the color you want to use, right, you can just also go and see what people take all this color to mean. Because you are not designing for yourself in the end, you are designing for people, right? Now, if a parent wants to design a, a Valentine mobile application, right? So a Valentine card, and then I come and start using black. If I want to sell that card, only me will buy it, maybe my family members to support me, right? Because nobody associates Valentine with black. Black is dull, gloomy, so people associate with mostly funerals and stuff. At the same time, you can use black in a way that it should be classy. That's why we use black. Men wear black suits, women wear black suits. It makes you look classy. So associating rich with there something that is you want to trigger emotion for people, you'll be shooting yourself in the leg because your target audience does not see that black in the light that you're seeing it. That's why it's good to research on colors. You don't just pick any color because you want to. You research on the color, then see if it works for you basically. In a case where there's no enough data to back up your choice of color, you can now go to see what people out there are using. When I mean people, I mean established brands, niches, right? If you go into the fintech space now, what is the popular color fintech products are using? Now you have this color because going back to our law of UX, right? You, sorry, users expect that when they hop on a platform, they expect to get the same result they usually get from other platforms that are similar to yours. So if you're a fintech platform and then the natural color for the fintech is maybe purple, right? I see you using silver maybe, or I see you using white as your primary color. You're not ready for business, right? But then this why design itself is not as easy as people see it out there. Because I can solely base my choice of color off what people are saying or people are using. But at the same time, coming from a business perspective, they might want to, it's a startup, they want to stand out, they want people to recognize them for their color because a way of recognition is your color. If you open your phone now and then you see probably your WhatsApp and these two apps I used to confuse. Your WhatsApp and your Bolt app are close to each other, right? They are both green, green. Sometimes you might have to look at the label before you then click. That's because you're already accustomed to green being for WhatsApp. You might go again and you see two blue apps, Facebook, Twitter, they both use blue, right? And they are together. You might want to click one, but you click another, except you then know the logo or they now know the label of the platform. So the case where you want to stand out from a product, I mean stand out in a niche, you have to do a lot of research before selecting a color. That's why we leave these tasks to the brand designers. They handle the research, they handle all those. When they give us the color, we then find a way to use it. Of course, our input has to be there if we want to give input to increase relevance. That's why you need to have an idea of what all these things are. So that in the case where they present to you yellow, for example, if you want to use yellow for um, a product that talks about nature, right? They give you yellow. You might then now come and then if you're a product designer who doesn't know anything about color, you might just take the yellow and start using, saying okay, the brand designer did a fantastic job, right? But now if you know that yellow is not associated with nature in any way, then you can now bring your backing to the client. It will increase your rep because it knows that okay, I'm not just with anybody, I'm somebody that knows their stuff. That's why it's good to have a foundational knowledge of all these things. But in real sense, in most cases, you'll be working with colors that are given to you, and you just have to validate it and utilize it. So these are places they use color. As you can see in this one, they use color to denote burst. It's a fight, so they use color to denote tension. This one maybe pride, because I mean I'm seeing the lion here, I'm seeing pride here, so it might be elegance, pride. This one is which to denote health because of I mean nature because it's already harvest, so it tells you it's nature already. This is already health and other logos, and you see why people are using this color for this color. Right? Blue also sends the message of calmness, peace. You're calm. That's why if you want to sleep, you turn on your blue light and all your worries are just wiped away for the next few hours and you just sleep. Next morning you continue with your worries, right? This is an example of color usage in design. As you can see, their color is blue. This is their color, but then they have a touch of this yellow, and then they have a touch of red because we use red to show okay this is a top sale, so let's use red, right? You can see this also. They have red, they have yellow here, and then they have blue here. So it's just colors that will blend in and still targeted at what you want. Now, how do we use colors? I mean, in this case now, this person could have easily used this blue right here. Could have still used the same blue in this top deal, and it might work, right? So how do we use colors? There's something called the 60-30-10 rule. So 60-30-10 rule. So it just states that in your color palette, right, comprising of three, as I said, three is the appropriate color to use. In your color palette, 60% should go to one color, which is usually the neutral color. Neutral color sometimes happen in as maybe your background color. So more often than not, it's either white or black. 60%, either white or black, your background color, right? In this case now, 60% is the white, as this or white. In this case, it's black, so it took more of the content. 30% goes to the complementary color, right? That's your other colors. In this case now, it's actually this 30%, this yellow, this yellow. So they use three different colors, so I can't really point out the 30% color, but I'm thinking it's blue because I'm seeing a shade of blue at the bottom here, and I'm seeing blue here. But then the most important part of your color is the one you use 10%. That is the most important color, right? More often than not, it's your call to action colors. your call to action column. This is what used to stand out. Click me, click me. As you can see, only this one is blue. So click me, click me. This one now, as you can see, this red. Click me, click me, click me. So it's you using color to draw users' attention to that particular thing, right? As you go on, when you're now going into design proper, when you're using these things, you see how to apply all these colors. You don't need to start counting how many times you use the color, getting 10% of it to see this is your color. No, you don't do all those. By looking at your design already, you know what you use the most. In this case, black was used the most, right? In this case, white was used the most. So 60% was just white. It might be 80, that's fine, but with this rule, it's 60%, right? 30% was used, this yellow, used to denote other things, right? But it's not the main call to action. And then this one, this is the 10%. This is what you use to tell me I'm different. Click on me, basically. So that's just the 60-30 10 rule. There are resources on the resource channel I sent. You can go and watch more videos about it to solidify your understanding of the usage of 60-30 and the 10 rule. So this is just a case where I was illustrating the usage. So 60% should be of the main color, right? In this case, white. Sometimes if you are doing dark mode, it will be dark. 30% are usually, most times, the primary color. If you're using 3 colors, right? 30% is your primary color. This is your accent color. This is what for call to action buttons like hit click me, buy now, all those colors. So this the one that stands out from that page. It can bend. I mean, you can swap it and use more of this and then less of this. But then, as I said, experiment and see which one works, which one fits your target audience, which one resonates with your audience, and then take it from there. It's just a rule. It's not like you must abide by it. It's advice that you follow it, right? It's not like you must follow it. So now we have we know about colors, we know about the types of colors, we know about how people generate colors, we know about how to use color a bit, 60-30-10 rule. Now, at what point do we use colors? So these are tips on color usage, right? To design in grayscale first. Now, this means that don't add colors yet. As you can see in what we did here, we've not added color yet, right? But we've already created a visual hierarchy of things. By using spacing, using text weight, you know that these are together, this is different, this without adding color. So this is what we might design in grayscale, right? First, don't design with colors first, so that you can explore other methods of improving hierarchy instead of depending on color, right? Our second tip is to match colors to the brand. So your brand color is the color that the company will be known for. Twitter is known for blue. Instagram is known for their rainbow color. WhatsApp is known for green, right? So brand color is what your product will be known for. So you have to match the colors of your platform. You have you have to match the color of your platform to the color you selected. Right? Match it to the brand so that there's a certain level of unison between what you have and what your brand color is saying. Most times I pick the color of my primary color from the brand's logo. My button color I pick it from the brand's logo. Also, if you go to Facebook, their button is sometimes blue, right? Because their brand color. But in some cases, they put their button as green. This way, they now explore this 60-30-10 rule. They use the button as green. It's not their primary color, but then they want to draw attention. Um, um, Let me see if we have something like that. Yeah, so now look at this, for example. This is typical Facebook, right? The background color is blue, but then the button is green. So it's saying that the 60% color is white, right? 30% is this blue, and then the 10% is green. The 10% draws your attention to it by standing out. It's different. So what does this say? That's why it's green. That's also matching colors to the brand. Imagine in this screen, right? Imagine in this screen, you don't see anything blue. Maybe you see green. Your first thought will be like, no, this is not Facebook. This is scam Facebook, right? Because if you mentally know that okay, Facebook is blue, and then you hop on a site and see no element of blue, you just see probably this one here is green. See this is green. You say okay, no, this is not Facebook. Not this is not Facebook because this is the same thing Facebook has, but because you already modeled to knowing that Facebook color is blue, but now you're seeing something else, then it's not Facebook. That is matching colors to the brand. So think in terms of visual weight. So the more visual weight on a product, on an element, the higher the chances for a user to take action on it. Right? So there are three factors that influence user action on an element. The size of the object, the amount of space between it, and then the color of the object. So think in terms of visual weight. Can I, instead of using color, right, can I use size to make this more prominent? If no, okay, can I give it more space? If no, okay, I have to use color. Then find a well-balanced color scheme. So this is what we're talking about, right? In our color schemes here. In the product you're designing for, this might not work for you, this might work for you, or this might work for you. So you just find a balance on what you use. Mind you, I might use this, right? And in my whole design, I might not utilize all of it. You might not see this color anywhere. It's my color palette, good and fine, right? But nothing says that I must utilize everything in my color palette to say that I have successfully designed. Nothing states that. So use it only when needed. And there has to be a purpose for using it. You don't just use it because you want to use it, right? There has to be a purpose of using it. Is it that too many things are contesting for attention here? Okay, I want this one to stand out. Give it a color, let it stand out. Now, if I use red now, that color, it might mean that this one it's finishing or there's a problem here. Alert, alert. I don't use red. So we don't just use colors because we want to use colors, right? That's why in e-commerce sites you might see a yellow thing at the top that says when you're at the product page, you see a yellow thing at the top that says only to left. Now they can easily put that only to left without making it yellow or without giving it a yellow rectangle. They can easily do that. But I want to draw your attention there to tell you that there's only to the left. Make a decision before it moves to sold out. So there's a purpose for giving it that color. That's why I'm trying to iterate the fact that, emphasize on the fact that we don't use colors because we feel like using colors. Because in the end, when we use many colors on a design, there's no harmony, no consistency. It now looks poorly designed, right? The rule of max 3 colors. So do not wear more than 3 colors in an outfit, otherwise you will look like a clown. Imagine wearing shirt blue, trousers green, shoe yellow, and then you wear your hat maybe purple. Can also take you to the Jester house now. So what he's trying to say is do not use too much colors. right? If you think your design needs more color, tilt your tints and shades, meaning add more lightness or add more darkness. So don't it's ideal not to use more than three colors. Sometimes you might never use the whole three colors. And these three colors now might be inclusive of white, right? Because white is also a color. So if you feel like you need more colors, there's a book I'll send to you guys to factoring UI. I'll need to read the chapter colors. So it helps you decide on the shades of colors, the tints of colors to use. Use color as a cue. So this is what I was talking about in that e-commerce illustration, where instead of using saying two items left, they'll put it in a yellow boundary and give you two items left. That's to draw your attention to that place so that you can take an action that can influence your action. You use color as a cue because it's not just for decoration, right? It should serve a purpose if you want to do it right. I'm not saying you cannot use it for decoration, right? But if you want to do it right, it has to serve a purpose. Because now you're starting out, not too many people will be available to ask for your design rationale. But when you go in, when you enter into the space, when you enter into a corporate setting, when you have hierarchy, when you are reporting to someone, and you're tasked to do something, and then you just put one blue there. And when they ask you why did you put the blue here, tell me I felt like putting the blue there. It doesn't serve any function there. So what if that blue means? What if people understand that I should click that blue button? Maybe people understand it as a button, but you don't cannot defend it because you felt like putting it there. So you use colors for strategic actions. And lastly, that for this purpose, tips on color usage, think accessibility first. What I'm trying to say here basically is saying that you should use colors that are accessible to others, right? Imagine putting a white text on a yellow background. A white text on a yellow background. Let's try that. So I have this. Let's say this is. I'll just pick a yellow. This should be my yellow. I like this yellow, right? But let me change this text to white. Come here. I come up here on white. Now I've used color here. The brand color is yellow. Okay. I would I use white. Some people might be able to see this, but I cannot see it, right? Nobody can see it, please. What I'm trying to say is color was not properly used in this section because it's not accessible. In the same vein, I might say, okay, I want to use let me use a darker blue, let me use a darker yellow, maybe this one, and then I use black. It also is not accessible. So in your usage of color, think of accessibility. If you're using a dark shade of color, your text should be white, right? So that can be visible enough. If you're using a lighter shade, the text should be black, right? So that it can be visible enough. At the same time, even this shade of yellow now is not too great because in a case where my phone brightness is too bright for people that have and need to have their phone brightness at the highest to perform, I would not know that this blue is here because it will fade quickly into white. Now there's a color here, but you might not be able to see it, but there's a color here. Now imagine my phone is now at the highest, maybe the brightness is at the highest. This will fade into this white, and then all I will see here just log in and forgot password. Then there's a problem already. So think accessibility when using colors. So each time you place two colors with low contrast value next to each other, make it makes your copy difficult to read. So this is Slack. using putting visual weight on get started. So as you can see, this is normal white Slack solution, this, and then this is signing, but they want you to get started with your primary call to action. So they gave it visual weight, they added color here, right? Now this is MailChimp. As you can see, their primary color might be yellow, but then see them using accent color, this blue, to draw attention to it. Because now, if you come to this screen, you look at it, the first place your eye will go to will be this blue because it's different from what was taking over the screen. 60, 30 black, 10% this blue. This is Facebook using just one color, but with different shades and tints. Facebook color is blue. What you can see, to get this, they added darkness. To get the light part, they might add brightness. So they're using one color, but then they create a balance with it, but then they also achieve what they need to achieve with just one color. And that is their primary color, right? This is you using color as cue. So it lets users know that this you should click on this. If I just put a learn more under here, nothing says you can click on it. But then with this color at the boundary, it tells you that, okay, click on it, it's a button, click on me. Now, this is thinking accessibility when using colors. As we highlighted earlier, in this first case now, this is the same gray, but my text is, you can't read it. This is the same gray, but now you can read my text. So this is more accessible than this first one. Now, a bonus tip on color usage is never use color alone to convey a message. In as much as you as a designer, you know that red means danger, green means successful, yellow means warning, right? Now, what this means is that for a colorblind person, right? For someone that is colorblind and he just sees this stuff. In this case now, as a designer, you would think that okay, your John, it works, though works, email doesn't work, enter your email again, password works, right? But for a colorblind person, this is what they will see. Everything will just be one color. So they'll be asking the question, what's wrong? What did I do wrong here? What's the problem? Because you as a designer, you just give them color change. That's fine. You have done your work. You go. But when you're seeing it, this is what they're seeing. And then they might come back and tell you that your app is not working. And you'll be saying, what do you mean it's not working? But in real sense, it's not working. It's not working for them. They're not lying. It's not working. I'm clicking the submit button. It's not submitting. Meanwhile, they are colorblind. They cannot see that their email is wrong because you did not tell them. You relied only on color to let users know that this is the state of things, right? But in this second sample, you can see that when you gave the color, you told them that please enter a valid email. That's recently, if you are using your phone and enter a wrong password, they will tell you, you will highlight it as red, yes, but they will still tell you, please enter a correct password or incorrect password. In this case now, this is what a normal user sees. Now, this is what a colorblind person sees. He now knows that, okay, I need to enter a valid email. Then he cannot enter a valid email and proceed. So you solve two problems just by adding one line. So in general, that's basically how you use colors. We've talked about what colors are, the color theory, what governs colors, how do we arrive at these colors. We talked about the primary, secondary, and tertiary colors, how they are gotten, right? We talked about how to get different shades and tints of color, which people perceive to be different colors. This is light blue, lighter blue, coral red. Meanwhile, it's just a shade by adding black or a tint by adding white. Talk about the color scheme, how to generate color palette by using just one color, getting different shades and tints. What about analogous color scheme, where you take one color, then take the ones coming before it and coming after it. If it's not enough for you, take again coming before, coming after. Now you have the color scheme to work with. You can now derive your color palette tailored at the niche you are designing for. Complementary colors, face me, I face you. Take this one, opposite it, then get your tints and shades from it. Triadic color is just a triangle. In your color wheel, right? Just draw a triangle, a perfect triangle. Pick top, pick left, pick right, then take tints and shades, and best believe it will work, right? If you use them properly, it will work. Color meaning, all colors have their own different meaning, so we use color for different. That's why you see you use gold for wealth, because already the gold bar is already is I mean normal gold is gold, so people use gold to denote wealth. You see Binance using gold, you see cryptocurrency using gold, right? Black for luxury or for if everywhere is gloomy, right? Red for attention, for love, for danger. Green, nature, prosperity, basically. Pink, feminine, compassion for kids. Blue, calmness, peace, wisdom, and different other colors, right? This as usage of those colors, usage of those colors, 60-30-10 rule, trying to tell you that 60% of your interface should rely on one color, usually a neutral color, right? We have primary, secondary, and tertiary color, right? But if you're designing the color palette, your primary color is there, secondary color, asset color, then neutrals. Primary color is usually the brand color. Complementary colors are colors that complement your primary color, basically. You know, when you see all those red, blue, green, yes. Asset color is the one that's used for primary call to actions that you want to stand out. Neutral colors are your gray, your white, your light gray, your off-white. Those are neutral colors. So 60% goes to your neutral, 30 goes to your complementary, 10 goes to your accent, which is used for your call to actions. You saw that on Facebook. Then tips, design in grayscale files so that you're not limited to colors. You don't use colors to create hierarchy. You first use weight, you use spacing, then use color for beautification. Matching colors to the brand. If your brand is blue, match your color palette to blue so that there's a sense of rhythm as you go. Finding the balance between color scheme. Spoke about color scheme, so you find the ones that doesn't distract users. I mean, I could get, but eventually I pick this scheme, right? And eventually we see that, or maybe I pick this. Eventually we see that this one will distract user. I can take off with this. I can take this off. And decide to go with something else. So finding the balance. Who's coming by this time? Fantastic. And finding the well-balanced scheme, basically. The rule of mass color. Rule of mass color is you just saying, don't use too much colors. So that because we don't want everywhere color, color, color. I will now start thinking, if I click on this blue, does it do something else? If I click on this red, does it do something else? Meanwhile, the designer is just there thinking, this is so beautiful, so beautiful. Who they check on? Meanwhile, your user is back there thinking, what does all this color? So just limit yourself to colors that are used for particular purposes, right? Tailor to your brand color so that you don't distract users. If you use them properly, your interface will be beautiful. Now, something about beautiful interface that we all see, yeah, they're governed by three things: proper use of color, proper use of alignment, proper use of spacing. you might bring a design that you feel is whack, right? Now, if you want to critique it visually, not experience wise, visually. Now, there are three things to highlight. They are too close together. That is spacing. This one, there's no alignment because this one is to the right, this one is to the left. That's alignment. It's too dull. That is color. If you can perfect those three things to a reasonable extent, your design would be neat. That's just it. We saw places where these tips were used in real life scenarios and it's working for them, right? This is Facebook using one color but getting shades and tints of it. And this is you using color to denote click me, proceed to see more. This is more on accessibility though. You trying to design for inclusion, you trying to include people that other people don't think about, right? Because I mean, you must have seen this, but you might think that they are doing it for you, but in real sense, it's not for you. It's for colorblind people. But then you benefited. Another one is if you go on Google Map and then you then click on the speak out. You know when Google Map will now be reading the direction to you. That is also an accessibility feature. Now you think it's for you, but it's not for you. It's for people that cannot see, right? Or people that cannot read. So it just reads it out for them. You might go on YouTube and you see closed captions. You might think it's for you, but then it's for people that cannot hear, so that they can also partake into all these things. Those are little things that you do that you are designing for inclusion. In this case, you might be able to read this if you are young, your eyes are still sharp. But then if you give a 60-year-old man this thing, right? Now he can't see nothing. Not because it's not visible, but for his age, it doesn't work for him. Okay, so it has to be visible enough. Now, how do you know all these things fit? We might discuss that later on because time is fast spent. How do you know that this color that we used, how do you know this color actually works? I mean, I might decide to give this, and then I say I want to give it maybe white. How do I know this works? So there's a plugin called Contrast Checker. It's a Figma plugin, A11Y Contrast Checker. So what it does is just it checks for you if this contrast actually is okay for everybody. Now, as you can see, to me, to my normal eye, this actually works because I can see that it's clear enough. But the plugin has told me that it doesn't work. So I can now modify it here and say, okay, this is AA, and then okay. So probably at this point, okay, this is now readable. So I can check it again and it tells me amazing. Now, if any give anybody this in all conditions, you'll be able to see this. That's why you saw Binance using yellow and using black. So some people it did not work, right? But they did the contrast checking and they saw that it passed the accessibility test. So that is this thinking accessibility while using design. So with that, we have come to the end of spacing and color. Now, when I say end, along the line as we go, we'll be making references to all these things. We'll be making references to all these things. Also, we will be getting more insight about these things. So this class, as I said, is fundamental just for you to get an idea, get a beginning, a solid foundation of why we do what we do, right? So if there's any question now, I will entertain it before I stop recording. Yes, is your question.
Please, I didn't hear the name of the checker you called. Sorry, my network broke at that point.
Okay, so it's A11 construct checker.
Okay.
A11 construct checker. So on Figma, you can just click on this thing. Remember when someone was asking what this thing does, right? And click on it, navigate to plugin, and just search for it, right? A11, and it should give you the construct checker. So you can run it, and it comes out. Select what you want and check, basically. When we use all these things, I think I'll explain more on how to use, because I don't want to give you guys too much information. That's where we also have to consider cognitive load, because I don't want to give you too much information that you lose the information I want to pass across. So as we go, we'll be seeing how we can use all this plugin to accelerate how we design, see how we can use it to validate what we design, and how we can present our designs to the world at large. You've gotten the name of the plugin now, haven't you?
Yes, I have. Thank you very much.
All right. So is there any more questions for me?
You've done a great job, sir. I don't think anyone has questions.
Thank you very much. So all of us understand how what spacing is all about. We all understand how to create a spacing grid. We all understand why we do spacing, um, how to space basically. We all understand colors, how we generate colors, when to use colors, how to use colors, and the tips for using colors. We all understand all those. If we all do that, I will have to stop recording now, and that will be that should be it for today's class.